When I'm interviewing somebody, I can specifically ask them, okay, so if I gave you this scenario, what would you do? What's your plan of attack to coming in to growing the sales by 35% and getting this conversion rate? Because that's the outcome that you own. Right, welcome back here to another episode here inside of the Modern Man podcast. Today's topic is how to build a high-performing team. Now, I've done a lot of podcasts on advertising, I've done a lot on marketing, I've done a lot in sales, I've done a lot in terms of everything that you need to get up to make money inside of your business. But there's only two problems that you and I will ever face in business. The first problem is where the business is not making enough money. And the second problem is the business is making too much money. So the first problem is when you don't have an advertising, marketing, sales strategy in order to generate revenue. And once you kind of get through that stage, very few men actually do. Like I spent the majority of 2014, 15, and possibly even 16 mastering that game. And even then, when I say master, it's you become a student for life. Like there's just times that I'm just really excited to read a copywriting book or a business strategy book or some sort of marketing book or Russell Brunson's new book because I think he's absolutely amazing. But there's this thing where it's a lifelong skill because if you get better at it, you become more valuable. And so there's this other problem that you're going to face inside a business, and that's when your business begins to grow too fast. And this is the problem that very few people have in business. So if you're actually experiencing this problem, well done. You're doing something right. You're being able to generate revenue. There's a very high chance that you're doing $50, $100, $200, $300,000 a month inside of your business. And so your supply and demand chain needs to grow. Like there's a lot of supply, there's a lot of demand, and you got to be able to increase your supply. And so the biggest frustration that you're going to have, and the thing that eats up your time, energy, and effort is thinking about solving these two problems. And you have to solve these two problems because if you don't, you go on this attempt to just scale up. What happens is when you go on this attempt to scale up is you don't realize that scaling up means that you have to optimize first, because scale in itself is to blow something up. And when you blow something up, you're going to start to realize inefficiencies come into play. Now, if you've ever scaled up an advertising campaign, there's a very high chance that at the start it works really well because it's optimized and it's going out to the right people at the right time. And then as you scale it up, there's not as many right people, and so it becomes more and more ineffective over time. This is why you actually have to change them up more and more frequently. That same thing's happened inside of your business when you're scaling up your business. Your efficiencies in terms of your people, bringing them in, being able to hire properly, being able to train, being able to onboard, being able to manage, being able to get them into a right cultural fit, being able to get your people to actually build the consistency inside of their habits to do what needs to be done on a day-to-day basis and making sure that they're doing the right thing. That's another whole problem within itself, which is why I love talking about this idea of modern man. It actually it's liberating, because the biggest problem that you'll face is business problems. Like all of these problems that I'm talking about cause you stress, cause you anxiety, cause you chaos, because when you have to go home to your wife, when you have to be there and play with your kids, you don't want to be thinking about all this stuff that you should have got sorted. And so the first thing that you got to get sorted is, well, your business isn't growing fast enough. The second thing that we're going to be talking about today is, well, your business is growing too fast. How do you build a high performing team? So when I look back to a lot of my journey in 2018, 22 employees, not a lot of employees, but enough to actually stress me the out and ruin my relationship. It was enough to actually cause an implosion, enough to make me question what I was doing. It was enough because I could have gone on this pursuit to scale and grow bigger, only to dig myself further and further and say, I stopped and I asked myself, okay, is this what I want? And as I look back to those 22 employees, I started to realize, well, there was a lot of inefficiencies, and the issues that I face were the following. Number one, my company was not driven off outcomes. It was driven basically off people. And what does this mean? Well, it means I was trying to model what somebody else had inside of their company and ask. I used to ask friends, and I used to ask mentors, and I used to ask consultants, well, who do you guys have? And I would try to model things because that's how I learned. That's how I learned a lot of marketing. That's how I learned a lot of sales, modeling. Right? And when I try to model another business organization's team because somebody has an executive assistant and I feel like I need one, and somebody's got a COO and I feel like I need one, somebody's got a CTO and I'm like, who's that? And then I'm like, oh, maybe I need one. And then somebody's got a CFO and I need one, and a COO and CMO and all these C-level roles. It becomes really intimidating. Because I'm sitting there going, holy shit, I actually don't know who I need, but maybe I do need that. And you're right, I need that person. So the 22 people I started to hire were people who just brought in for roles that I didn't really have. And the reasons why I brought them in was to get them to do stuff, but they didn't really have a lot to do. They were kind of doing stuff, but they weren't sure why they were there. They were all there. We were all like meeting up. We were all catching up. We had our daily huddles. We had a big vision. We had a big targets for what our company wanted to achieve. But individually, they were not sure. They were not clear on the exact outcome outcomes on why they were there. If I was to ask them, why are you here inside the company? They'd be like, dude, I don't know. I'm here because Lynn needs a person to do this. And so immediately off the very top of the bat, they're coming in for the wrong reason. And so as I start to look back in 2019, 2020, as we began to strip back, especially during COVID-19, I stripped down to like 7 employees right now, right? I start to look at every single person. I start to visualize them as though I'm a coach on an NBA team, looking at the best person with the best, here's my salary package that I have, and here's the players, and here's the outcome of what I want each and every single one of them to do. And every single person is here for an outcome, whether or not they're a copywriter, whether or not they run ads, whether or not they do sales, whether or not they coach, whether or not they do video editing and graphics design. They're all here for a specific outcome. But before, my company was run off me trying to model who I needed to have. And so the very first thing is when you want to build a high performing team, you got to ask yourself, first, what's the strategy? Like, what is my client journey? What is the strategy of how my business is actually growing? And when you begin to look at the strategy, you need to ask yourself, what is the outcome of your business? And I did a video on this, I think inside of episode 13. This is really important. You got to understand your client journey. You got to understand the outcomes. You got to understand, well, first, here's a prospect. Okay, what do I want a prospect who sees me to actually do next? What's the whole goal here? We're supposed to build trust, but yes, ultimately, I want them to become a lead. A lead is somebody that subscribes to you. A lead is somebody that gets to know you. And lead is somebody that says, you know what, I do like Lynn. I saw this random guy pop up. I've seen him a few times. You know what? He provides some useful information. I'm going to get him. I want to sign up to his email list. I want to subscribe to him. I'm following him on Instagram. There's an outcome there. And the reasons why I want you to start thinking about your business in terms of outcomes first is because without knowing your outcomes, your people don't know what they're there to do. And so it all starts. I started to recognize this because I read a ton of books. I've read Scaling Up. I've read The Rockefeller Habits, all amazing books, right? I've read Who by Jeff Smart, really good book for hiring. I read tons of books, and I've worked with 3 consultants over the period of 2 years to try to figure this game out. Very few could actually articulate this clearly for me. Very few were actually applying general corporate structure, you know, a big $100 million company over here, and this is what it actually looks like, rather than giving me a high performing team, like something that can come in to produce outcomes, because I'm a very return on investment driven person. I'm a very, hey, like, does this actually make sense short term, and what can we do long term to build brand over time, but short term, what can we do to actually generate revenue? And when you begin to look at your team, I want to know, well, who's the next person I should strategically hire that's going to make, or what's the next chess move that I need to make right now in order to grow the company, in order to make the best moves. And I think about business as chess. Who's the next person that I need to have that's going to have the biggest impact? Because if I hire this person at the right time, or if I hire this person, I might need a content person right now, but if I hire them right now, it doesn't actually make sense because we're not generating any sales, but we're getting a lot of leads and applications. I need a salesperson, so I need to invest money in that person there. That's the next spot. So I want you to think about this, because it's really important that you develop your strategy first and know your outcomes. Without knowing your outcomes, you don't know who to hire and what they're going to do. Very similar to how I didn't know who to hire. I had a rough idea of who I needed, but I had no idea of what they needed to do. I had no idea what they needed to do, and because I didn't have an idea, they didn't have an idea of how to win. And because they didn't have an idea on how to win, I measured their results based on feelings and not facts. Like, I couldn't look at them and say, hey, like, what have you done for the company over the last 3 months? What have you done over the company over the last 6 months? I literally, everything was based on, hey, I've done this today, I think. And so I would measure them, I'd sit down with them and I'd give them feedback, and I'd run daily huddles based on all these things that they're doing. But I actually couldn't tie a direct correlation between why they're here. Why am I paying this $8,000 a month salary? What is this for? And I couldn't sit down and do the math. And as you begin to grow in business, what's going to start to complicate things is this: the feeling of payroll, the feeling of pressure, the feeling of advertising, the feeling of knowing that you've got $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 of expenses coming out every single month, and at the same time, you're not bringing that much money in. Like, that is the most stressful situation you're going to find yourself in. So in order to offset your anxiety, you got to be able to do quick and simple math inside of your mind. Is this person adding value? Can I see the value are they contributing either to this? Are they contributing to either client acquisition, or are they contributing either to client results and referrals on this side? Where are they contributing? There's only one or two things. Are we acquiring new clients? Are we generating revenue? And how are we actually delivering on our promises here and getting referrals? And so it's really important that when you're looking at building a high performing team, you start with outcomes first. You start with the outcome of your company. You start with what is our company about? What's the outcome? What's the goal? And the goal is always of a company to turn a prospect into a lead into an applicant. An applicant is a lead, okay, but with intention. A lead has no intention. A lead just wants to subscribe and learn a little bit more. An applicant has an intention to work with you, and then they become a client. From there, they actually become a raving fan, and then da-da-da. There's only a few steps. And so when you understand this and when you understand the outcomes, you can actually put a number. You can start to measure it because you can measure outcome. You can go, well, how many prospects turn into leads? What's the percentage? What's the percentage of leads turn into clients or applications? What's the percentage of apps that turn into clients? Clients turn into raving fans. You can measure this, and this is what we like to call the lagging measures. And then you can start to ask yourself the next question, which is, well, first I've got the outcome. Now I've got the data. What are the processes or the actions that drive and improve this data metric? What do I do every single day to turn more prospects into leads? What do I do every single day to turn more leads into applicants? And so you can write a series of things, and these are actions, these are habits. Now, once you've got strategy, once you have strategy, once you have data, once you have process, then you can now bring a person in and go, hey, you're responsible for this. You're responsible for this outcome. You're responsible to turn 35% of our leads into applicants every single month. You're responsible to generate this outcome inside of our company. Here's how we're measuring it. Here's what you need to do. Okay. But like, you're responsible for these things. And this is what you got to know how to do. This allows me to write a job description that's very outcome driven. It's very mission driven. And they know exactly what it is that they need to be competent with. And so I can test this person when I'm interviewing. Hey, have you done this before? Have you done all these actions? Show me what you did for this company. Show me exactly what you've done. Okay, brilliant. Now, and I can sit down with this person, and when I'm interviewing somebody, I can specifically ask them, okay, so if I gave you this scenario, what would you do? What's your plan of attack to coming in to growing the sales by 35% and getting this conversion rate? Because that's the outcome that you're on. And so this becomes really important, because without outcomes, and without data, without processes, it becomes very difficult to hire the right people. And when it comes to hiring as well, I used to hire a lot of people. I've hired hundreds of people through, and I'd hire when I'm desperate. Like I'd hire when like somebody left and I need to fill this spot right away. So we just hired the next person that could just do it. I didn't have a hiring process. I didn't have an interview process. And what I started to realize was I was so picky in terms of my advertising, my marketing. I was really picky. I was like, I'm really picky of who I work with. I know that if I advertise more, release more content, I'm going to bring in a huge amount of prospects who want to work with us. Well, shit, why don't I do that for hiring? Why don't I do that to build my team? Why don't I just do that to build my clients? I've got this little hierarchy that starts off with the most important people inside of the world. Starts off with you, moves over to your family, moves over to your team, and then it moves over to your customers and clients, and then the next under that, it moves over to your prospects. So the very first person you got to look after is yourself. If you don't look after yourself, you can't look after your family. You don't look after your family, you can't look after your team. You don't look after your team, you can't look after your clients. You don't look after your clients, well, you can't really look after your prospects and so on and so forth. And so I started to realize, well, shit, I don't have this hiring system for my team. And the reasons why I don't have the hiring system is because I don't do what I do to get clients. I don't market for it. I don't advertise for it. I don't make sure that we're telling people that we're trying to attract top talent. And so the greatest way to attract top talent is the greatest way to attract new customers. Market and advertise and market and put up roles and positions and make your role desirable so that you get the best people. The last thing I would advise you on, and this is really in retrospect, big reflection, is pay above average. Like make the hook, make the offer first irresistible, because people come for the offer, and that's how you're going to attract top talent, and they'll stay for the culture, the community, the cause of what it is that you're doing. Okay, so this is kind of the steps in terms of what you need to know and what I wish I knew in 2018 when it comes to building a high performance team. One that doesn't clog up the system, one that comes in directly knowing outcomes because they've got data, they've got processes, and they know how they're going to be, they know how to win, they know how they're going to get measured against, and ultimately they know what they need to do in order to excel. And so when I'm looking back at all of my mistakes, what I didn't like, why business was so chaotic versus the infrastructure that we've built now, and as we continue to build, this is kind of the North Compass that's guiding me. I want to make sure that I build something that's fun. I want to make sure that I love all of my team members. I want to make sure that we're all a cultural fit. I want to make sure that they're relentless and that they are very resourceful. I want to make sure they don't give up and they embrace failures and they learn. These are smart people. And the reasons why I want to build that isn't because I want the biggest company in the world. It's because I want to enjoy who I work with every single day. So my question to you right now is, well, what did you get from this podcast episode? What was your biggest takeaway? What was your biggest revelation? Comment down below with what that was, and go off there and start starting, I should say, to build your high performance team so that you can escape the trap that you've built for yourself inside of your business.